Hello, Ibeth and Jennifer. I would like to walk you through the feedback that I just did on your needs analysis. Okay, so that we can understand the comments that I have made and we can also reflect a little bit on the importance of needs analysis. First of all, you start your needs analysis with the purpose and you fail to make a description of the population you're working with. It is very important whenever you are doing a needs analysis to have a very clear picture of the population. Students, as I mentioned here, saying B1 level English students at our blended learning program is not enough because how old are these B1 level students? Instruction would differ if they're children or if they're adults or if they are young adults or teenagers. So we don't have age, for example, here. Also, you say B1, I don't know how strong that is going to be. If you know for sure that your students are B1, or you can just describe the level they are in the institution you work with. Also, you mentioned our blended learning program, and so that doesn't tell me much. I mean, how many hours of studying do students do independently? What is the ratio, of online and face-to-face time? We need to know exactly what kind of learners we're talking about. So the needs analysis really gives us the information that we need. Each population is going to have very particular needs. So for that reason, it is very important to describe it thoroughly. Okay, so whenever you're doing the needs analysis for your research project, make sure that it is very, very well described. This part of the population is very well described. Okay, so if we go to the comments, you say, although students are very committed within class activities and homework, they seem not to devote time to online activities recommended to practice the language. So I'm guessing question 7 is intended to respond to that need, kind of to solve that. But you just say, how many hours of independent work do you do per week, between 1 and 2, etc., etc., so you can get a picture of who does what and how much they do. But anyway, it doesn't, time only doesn't tell me whether students do the practice exercises. You see what I mean? A student can spend time in the platform, but it can be just opening the platform and going to watch a movie. You see what I mean? Okay, at this point, you mentioned you focus on speaking due to it is that skill teachers have noticed students have more difficulty with. Well, these are your preliminary observations, and the needs analysis should help you make that choice. In the needs analysis, you're not going to tell us what you're going to work with because you're just analyzing what the needs are. You think you have a perception as a teacher based on your observations that what they need is to work on speaking. Okay, so you can gear the needs analysis towards finding out about that. But what if you found students really need listening strategies, and you didn't think of that because it's not so evident because the behaviors are covered, but then you find out that they actually need listening strategies. So for that reason, we do not gear it towards anything at this point because we're just trying to find out, specific needs that students have in the linguistic, in the affective, and the cognitive areas, as you mentioned at the beginning in your questionnaire. Sorry about the noise. I share an office, right? Okay. So maybe you shouldn't ask students about the activities they consider good, but the speech acts they struggle with the most, or the communicative situations they need to perform in English in their lives outside the classroom. So the idea here is that you mentioned it is important to know what students consider effective speaking strategies. I think that's dangerous because students do not know about pedagogy or methodology, and they can say anything. They can say songs are an effective speaking strategy, and that's not true. So you can just say, speech acts or communicative situations. When do you struggle the most? When you have to talk to a teacher? When you have to call a call center? I don't know. Okay, just focus it more towards speech acts. Okay, continuing here, you cite Coningsworth, where he says that you need to, base instruction on objectives. They should derive from the learner's communicative needs. Okay, that's fine. But you need to identify those needs first, and that's what you're doing with the needs analysis. Okay, you mentioned 3 instruments. One is a questionnaire, another one is a focus group, and another one is an interview. So a questionnaire, I have the question, how is a questionnaire going to tell you what is happening in terms of speaking in the previous level? I mean, you say you are going to ask, you're going to perform the questionnaire for two populations, the B1 and the A2 levels. So my question is, how is the questionnaire going to show you, in comparison, what they have learned? I think it would be something more tangible about students' performance in speaking, so that would be an observation, wouldn't it? Okay, here this is just a language correction. Oh yeah, you say that you're going out of the 20 students from the B1 level, you're gonna pick 10, and you're gonna interview those 10, right? So my question here is, why do you ask them the same questions in the interview than you ask them in the questionnaire? I mean, shouldn't it be different? Shouldn't the interview expand on the information you learned through the questionnaire? Just questions for you to consider. Okay. I like a lot the idea of the focus group. I think a focus group is a really good tool to identify students' needs because they feel free to speak. So a nice instrument there. About the use, you mentioned that the information in the needs analysis is going to be used to influence instructional design in order to create the appropriate classroom and online environment for students to develop their speaking skills so they are able to communicate. This is very ambitious. Your questionnaire certainly doesn't give you all this information. So either dumb down this a little bit, I mean, take it down a little bit, or make questions that actually help you do that. Okay? Okay. This sounds ideal, yes, but is it realistic? That's what my ideas about this intended use are. They sound a little bit idealistic. So here I'm providing you with specific comments about the questions. Yeah, we have to try to avoid terminology like meta language. For example, speaking proficiency. Do students understand what proficiency is? For example, this question, what is the purpose of this question? You are focusing towards speaking. You want to know whether students are inclined towards speaking in class and how they feel about it. Okay, that's okay. But I don't know. I feel it's a little outside of the entire purpose. A suggestion: try to avoid open questions like this because students can come up with anything, and then when you have to tabulate information, it's impossible. And also, students have little knowledge of methodological strategies, so we're not suggesting some options similar to the songs up there. If you say to students what kind of activities do you consider more effective to learn English, they can say all crazy things just because they like them, So are you willing to do that? I mean, are you willing to accept anything? Because the problem is that when you ask your students questions in a needs analysis and when you offer the possibility of choosing what to do, and you don't do it in the course, then students feel disappointed because why was I asked if my opinion was not going to be taken into consideration anyway, right? Okay, so that's my feedback on your needs analysis. Thank you very much for taking the time to do the task so thoroughly, and see you tomorrow in class.